Hey everyone, it's Ed with the Flying Stampede here. It's been 1 year since we bought our airplane, our 1950 Piper Pacer. I get lots of questions and comments from people that they're like, how in the heck did you buy an airplane? Or you must be a millionaire or a gazillionaire in order to buy your own aircraft. And that's definitely not the case. It's something that, if it's something that you really want to do and something that fits within your budget, it's definitely something that is obtainable to the everyday normal person, just like me. So in today's video, I wanted to give a real life example after 1 year of aircraft ownership on what it takes to buy an airplane, and is it really something that's right for you using my experiences. Just as a disclaimer, these are my experiences with 1 year of owning an aircraft, and it may not be the same for everyone. But if it's something that you've ever considered doing, or you thought maybe it would work for you, hopefully my experience will help you to do a little bit more research and determine whether or not it's something that's right for you and for your family and your financial situation. So first off, why I decided to buy an airplane? Well, I decided to buy an airplane because my wife and I, we'd like to travel a lot, and what better than to fly low and slow across the country or across Wisconsin together in our own aircraft, especially now with COVID. It's a lot easier to get to be socially distant in an airplane of Piper Pacer size than it would be to fly in a large commercial jet. And plus, we can go at our own pace. It's a lot slower. You can see more of the country. We like more of the stop and smell the roses type of travel, so it works perfectly for us. Some other advantages is that there's no scheduling. So if you're used to flying with a flight school and you're used to going on a schedule, and sometimes you get bumped off because someone needs to do a check ride, or maybe the day that you want to go flying, the plane's already taken, and especially weather has a big part into that. You can schedule yourself a week out in advance to go somewhere, and if you're a VFR pilot like I am, it might not even be a good day for flying that day by the time your slot comes up on the schedule, and then you have to get on the schedule again. So it totally eliminates the scheduling. It's all on your time. Whenever you're ready to fly, you just jump in your airplane and you go. It's great. And also too, when it comes to rental aircraft, sometimes at some of the flight schools that I've been to, you find that the aircraft is the person before you, or even a couple people before them, they just don't leave it in the same condition that you would like it left in. So whether it's checklists missing, or put in different pockets, or sheets of paper, or pens and pencils everywhere, smudges all over the windows, all over the avionics, that's something you can control when you're in your own aircraft. You can keep it as clean as you like, or if you like it messy, you certainly could leave it messy as well. But that's one of the things, is it's as clean and as well maintained as you would like. Some of the disadvantages, again, is everything's on you. So if something's wrong, it's on you to fix it. If something breaks, you have to find a mechanic that can come and fix it for you. You're responsible for all the inspections. You're responsible for absolutely everything that happens in that airplane. So that is the only real disadvantage that I've seen so far after 1 year of aircraft ownership, is just taking more responsibility, and especially financially. It's a big financial responsibility if something major happens to the airplane. So when I was looking at aircraft, one of the things that always fascinated me was tailwheel aircraft. I actually got my tailwheel endorsement in a Piper Cub out here in Racine, Wisconsin at Racine Sport Flyers, and I absolutely fell in love with tailwheel flying. Just something about going back, almost like going back in time to something that's older, way older than I am. And there's been a big resurgence in tailwheel aircraft. You see all the Carbon Cubs, Huskies, and that are brand new, still coming out the line with tailwheels. So it's definitely more challenging, definitely keeps you on your toes, both non-pun and pun intended. But it was something that I absolutely loved doing, and I really fell in love with tailwheel aircraft. Now, along with tailwheel aircraft, when you're thinking about along with buying aircraft, when you think about tailwheel aircraft and you have your tailwheel endorsement, you'll find a lot of the tailwheel aircraft are generally cheaper than your tricycle gear aircraft. So that played a big part in my decision on what type of aircraft to buy. Tailwheel aircraft was a lot more obtainable for my budget, and it was something that I enjoy flying. Some people don't enjoy flying them, and believe me, I understand. It's a lot. It's a lot to handle. They are definitely a handful. I like vintage aircraft. I love the classic look of it, and I love just being able to say I'm a tailwheel pilot, which not a lot of people do. And obviously, you know, as everyone says, it makes you a better pilot, and it's just plain fun. So we decided on a 1950 Piper Pacer. It's definitely, if you've seen some of our other videos, you know it's pretty basic, which is part of the fun of owning a vintage aircraft and flying low and slow, not having all kinds of avionics everywhere. The simplicity of flying a tailwheel aircraft like that is what makes it fun to me. And the ability for us to have 4 seats, which really it's, as with like a Cessna 172 or Warrior, it's really 3.5 seats depending upon your passengers and how much baggage. We also have 50 pounds worth. We can also carry up to 50 pounds of baggage, full load of fuel. It makes it a great aircraft for me, my wife. That's a little bit of the background as to why we chose Piper Pacer, which happens to be a tailwheel. So now one of the big things when it comes to purchasing an aircraft is of course financing. So I will say that I went through AOPA to go get my loan through them. We financed quite a bit of the cost of the aircraft through them. If you're lucky, you can pay cash, which if you have that option, I would highly suggest it to avoid all the fees and interest and all that. Or I know some people, what they did is they borrowed money from family and friends. You know, ask around and say, hey, can I borrow a couple $1,000s? I'll pay you back. You know, with interest or non-interest, whatever. If you have lucky family that will allow you to pay it back without any interest, go for that. But I do know some people that have done that, and that's a great option as well. So after you get your financing, then there's the cost of the aircraft. Usually you'll put a down payment on the aircraft, and then you'll pay the remainder, just like you would with a car or a home. So for the sake of this, we'll use whole numbers. So let's just say my aircraft cost me $26,000. I financed $6,000, which left a loan of $20,000 to the bank. For aircraft financing, you can usually get a loan up to 15 years. But a lot of that depends upon the age of the aircraft and also how much it cost. So for my aircraft, because it was almost 70 years old, I was only able to get a 10-year loan. So let's just say, for sake of argument, I got a loan for $20,000 and I did it over 10 years. It ends up being about $250 a month. So then the other cost you have is registration. The FAA registration is $5, and you have to register your aircraft every 3 years. What's nice about Wisconsin is that they have an antique aircraft fee that you pay a one-time fee of $50. So all in all, my registration cost me $53. Then you have to decide whether or not you want to hangar your aircraft, which is obviously the better option, or you want to tie it down outside. Or sometimes they have tie downs that have, well, I guess they're called hangars, but it's basically an outside tie down that has like corrugated steel or aluminum on top of it. So while it doesn't completely protect your aircraft from the outside elements, it does a so-so job of it. And that's something that you have to consider when you're buying an aircraft, depending upon whether it's tube and fabric or whether or not it's all metal. Obviously, a tube and fabric aircraft isn't going to do so well out in the elements for very long, especially when you think about the cost to recover and repaint your aircraft. You definitely would probably want to hangar something that's tube and fabric versus leave it out in the elements, but obviously it's going to depend on your budget. Here in Racine, we pay about $250 a month. One of the nice things that I did, and again, something that you can use to defer your cost towards your hangar fee, is find someone that has an aircraft that you can put 2 aircraft in the same hangar together, or maybe someone's building a project and they can put that project underneath the wing. In my case, my father-in-law builds and restores motorcycles, and he's been looking for storage space for years, as my mother-in-law wants those bikes out of the garage. So we were able to work out a deal where we split the cost of the hangar fee He puts his motorcycles in there. I've got my plane in there, and we're both super happy that we have all this space to work with. So again, that's just another example of something you could do to help defer some of the costs in aircraft ownership. So just get creative with that. So fuel kind of depends on where you are. I looked up some recent stats from Flying Magazine. 100 low lead on average is about $4.73 a gallon. So I flew about 40 hours this year, and my plane burns about 7 gallons per hour. So total, I spent about $1,324 in fuel this year. Oil, my oil comes in a 12-quart box. It's about $80 a box, and I do put CamGuard in there, which is about $30. For my aircraft, that whole box of oil and CamGuard will likely last me 2 oil changes. So if I change the oil every 25 hours, so I'm right about the point where I'm going to change the oil again in the aircraft. And then the next thing about owning an aircraft is, of course, maintenance. And that is something that can vary depending on what you have during the year. So far this year, we've had to replace one main landing gear tire and tube, one tail wheel tire and tube. We did the ADS-B upgrade, and we had a mixture cable that needed to be replaced because it kept getting stuck. So all in all, we spent about $3,500 on maintenance. One thing that I will say is that you should learn how to do some of the things that you're allowed to do yourself. Changing tires, that's something that you can do yourself. It's not difficult. Changing your oil, super simple. If you can change the oil in your car and you've never had anything go wrong with it, then you can do it in your aircraft. Yeah, it's a little scary, it's a little sketchy, I won't lie, but make good friends with your A&P, and the first time that you do some of these routine maintenance items, ask if you can tag along and watch him do it and learn how to do it. And then the next time, ask if he can just come over and hang out with you while you do it. I mean, obviously you might have to pay him for it, but that's money well spent because you're going to save money later on. So that's something else that I suggest, is that learn how to do the simple things and the things that the FAA actually allows you to do to help defer some more of that cost, especially easy things like that. And then finally, you have your annual inspection. So my pre-buy on the aircraft, I actually turned into an annual. It cost me about $600. Obviously, it depends on your mechanic, depends on what's wrong with the aircraft, depends on what he has to do. But I'm guessing my annuals can be anywhere between $600 to $1,000. So another thing people do is they do engine reserves and avionics reserves. And basically what you do is you take the cost of a new engine, and then you take the difference between when it's supposed to be overhauled and how many hours you have on that, and then you take the total of a new engine, divide that by the number of hours you have left on the engine, and that dollar amount that you have, you add that into like a bank account or something for every 10 hours or so that you fly. That way, when the time comes for your engine to be overhauled, then you have the money in the bank to do that. I guess that really depends upon your financial situation and also to what you plan on doing with the aircraft. It seems like a lot of people wait till it gets right about to the overhaul time and then they sell it, and they generally probably get most of their money back. I haven't decided yet what I want to do with our aircraft. I feel like I've got about 1,700 hours yet before I have to overhaul. So even if I fly, I have to fly a lot of hours before I even get to that point. So I'm not really worried about that right now. And such a small amount of money that, for me, I'm not doing that. I'm not setting that reserve aside at the moment. But definitely, take a look at that also too when you're deciding whether or not aircraft ownership is right for you. That may be something that you want to do. So I'm not doing it, you might want to do it. Same thing for avionics. They say, I think it's every 5 years or so, you should budget for new avionics. My avionics are old. They'll continue to be old, and when I need to replace them, I will replace them because it's not that expensive for something simple like that. But obviously, if you have, full-blown glass cockpit, glass panel, it might be something you want to look into if you're someone that has to have the latest and greatest all the time. So, and then finally, insurance. Insurance is a big one. For me, it ends up being about $1,200 a year, and a lot of that is because I'm very inexperienced in tailwheel. All in all, I probably have about, I would say, 60 hours in a tailwheel aircraft, so therefore I'm pretty low as far as tailwheel pilots are concerned. Plus, the Pacer kind of has a bad reputation for being a little bit squirrely on takeoffs and landings, which is a little true. So my insurance is about $1,200 a year. I'm an insurance salesman, and I do more health, life, dental, things like that. So my background isn't in aviation insurance, but I will say a good consumer in the insurance world is someone that's going to go and shop out their insurance every year. Whether you're good friends with your insurance broker or not, it's always a good idea just to make sure that you are truly getting the best deal. I did that, and I'm sorry, Mike, if you're watching this. I didn't do it because I didn't think you were a bad person. I definitely think you're a great person, but it's just something as an insurance agent I always suggest to people, even for my own clients. So with that being said, those are all of the costs that I've actually taken on this year with having an aircraft. So because of some of the upgrades and things like that, my some of my numbers are a little high, so we'll just go through them really quick. So my total this year without engine and avionics reserves is $7,734. So if I base my operating costs on 40 hours, I'm looking at about $193 an hour. So that is pretty high, considering that the average for a Cessna 172 is about $150 an hour. So if I would have flown 100 hours like I had planned to this year, I think I got a little overzealous on my hope to fly 100 hours, but there's a lot of different factors that have got into that, which I won't go into. But this is where you really this is where you really see where it makes sense to own your own aircraft, is if you're flying lots of hours. Because my 100 hours, it ends up being $97 an hour. I mean, that's pretty low. I think the Cub that I was flying was about that per hour, and that's a tiny little Cub that runs on MoGas and maybe burns 4 gallons an hour. So for something that burns 7 gallons an hour, has 4 seats, and can cruise at about 120, 122 knots, $97 an hour is pretty good. So if I factor in the maintenance that I had and all the upgrades that I did, and ends up being about $11,234 this year. So if I divide that by 40 hours, it ends up being $281 per hour. So again, it's pretty high, especially if you have some high dollar maintenance issues that you have to do, which ADS-B, the SkyBeacon is $2,000 right off the bat, plus whatever it costs to have it installed. So that's a pretty big maintenance item for me this year. If I would have flown 100 hours, again, it would significantly reduce it down to $132 an hour. Again, with this average price of a Cessna 172 being about $150, that's still pretty low. So I think the biggest advantage to owning your own aircraft is pride in ownership. Being able to fly in your airplane, do the maintenance on your airplane, shine and buff, and make your airplane the most beautiful aircraft on the field is the best feeling in the entire world. Being able to take up your family, your friends, pull up to the ramp and at your final destination, and knowing that you did that in your aircraft is one of the best feelings in the entire world. And just being responsible for it like you would a car or your house is the coolest feeling in the entire world. And again, you don't have to be a millionaire, a gazillionaire, billionaire, whatever, to own an aircraft. If it's something that you love to do and it's in your heart, then you definitely can make it happen. It just takes a little bit of work. It takes a little bit of energy and research and, of course, money, but definitely something that you can do. I hope this video helps you in your decision of whether or not aircraft ownership is right for you, using my real life examples from a year's worth of aircraft ownership. Hopefully, it points you in the direction of, yes, this is something that's right for me. But if it doesn't, then you are making the smart decision to not do it based upon the conditions that are right in your life. But hopefully one day you get there, because I'm telling you, it is the coolest thing in the entire world. And you just make fun YouTube videos too to tell about it. But anyway, for the Flying Stampede, I am Ed. I'm so grateful for you all watching this today. And thank you so much for all the likes and everything that you've given us and all the subscriptions. And one of our videos is finally hitting 1,000 views, which I think is kind of cool. And maybe I'm lame, but it's all because of you guys, and whether it's word of mouth or sharing it on websites or whatnot. And I just cannot tell you how much we appreciate it. So anyway, I hope you all are doing well, and I look forward to sharing some more flying videos soon as our annual is done, speaking of aircraft ownership. So again, take care, you guys, and we'll see you on the next one.